It's tough to fill the shoes of someone like Mega Man, or I guess in this case it's tough to fill the shoes of Mega Man X, because if we're being technical, the two are different robots entirely, but however you want to look at it, the Mega Man franchise has been entertaining and frustrating fans for almost 30 years now. 2012's Street Fighter Cross Mega Man is apparently the last official release from the franchise. Though it was published by Capcom, it was still put together as a fan project. It was an excellently made and very professional fan project, but still, it seems Capcom has given up on Mega Man. So, if you want your Mega Man fix, it has to come from the fans. 20XX is a fan project available in early access on Steam right now for $12. When it fully releases, they plan on increasing the price a little to $15, which if you're gonna do early access, to me, this is the way to go, rewarding early adopters instead of expecting them to pay for a full product when a full product isn't ready. In its current state, I feel confident saying that 20XX is worth the asking price. It delivers what it promises, a game meant to feel like Mega Man X, but with permanent death, randomly generated levels, and randomly dropped power-ups. It's an enjoyable, skill-based experience, and since it's a roguelike, you're at the mercy to lucky drops and level arrangements. The game even has two little characters, both similar but legally distinct from Mega Man and Zero, with a blaster and a laser sword respectively. Ditching pixels and opting for vector art, 20XX should look good at just about any resolution, and it runs smoothly as well. It even sports a co-op mode, but I didn't get a chance to test out that feature. The devs are currently being very vocal with fans, adjusting to feedback when appropriate, and even adding regular updates. If I were a gambling man, I'd bet that this one will release on time. But even if it never sees another update, I'd almost consider it to be a done game. It's a competently built and fun Mega Man-y, roguey experience. But I can say that 20XX's greatest strengths are also its greatest weaknesses. And though the game is still early access, I think these particular issues aren't something that can ever be fixed, short of going back to the drawing board. There's no getting around it. The game has to be compared to the Mega Man X series, to which I personally don't think it comes close to its quality. Comparatively, I much prefer the pixel art of the X series to the vector art style of 20XX. Mega Man and Zero are much more dynamic in their movements and their expressions than the duo in 20XX. But it doesn't stop with the protagonists. Even the robot bosses in the X series have a lot more personality, and therefore, they're more memorable. Considering the robot bosses in 20XX are assigned to a random level, each level doesn't feel like their domain that they've specifically crafted in the image and the likeness of their own supervillainy. Instead, they're just equations in a formula. While that might add to replayability, to me it's a little bit of a turnoff. But as a roguelike, it also misses out on the finely crafted moments that made the Mega Man series last as long as it has. Any longtime gamer can remember the musical theme from Stage 1 of Mega Man 2's Dr. Wily's Castle, or the moment when they first crossed through the upgrade station to get the dash boots in Chill Penguin's lair, and then read Dr. Kane's ancient message to you from the past. The X series, like many Mega Man games before it, wasn't necessarily about picking up a controller and shooting stuff. It was about a lot of trial and error, discovering which weapons worked best on each boss, discovering the locations to secret items, and yeah, reading a pretty weak story about a robot war in the future. It took a fair amount of dedication, finishing the game with a limited set of lives and using a password system so gamers could pick up where they left off. 20XX is more of a gauntlet and less of an experience, wiping the slate clean every time you restart it. Though the game controls well and reminds me a lot of the Mega Man X series and has a great little soundtrack of its own, I can't say I'm walking away from it with moments that I'm holding personally. On the contrary, it's making me want to replay the X series. The Binding of Isaac is a great game, but I'd never say that it was too similar to The Legend of Zelda. Shadow Complex is a fantastic Metroidvania, but I'd never say that it was too similar to Super Metroid. Those games stepped out of their shells and became something of their own. 20XX is a great game, but is uncomfortably wearing someone else's uniform. Perhaps all this can be sidestepped. Maybe it's not too late to manually craft static level layouts specific to each boss, and have each boss give you a definitive power-up while retaining the roguelike game mode as a separate way to play for extra longevity. The two modes could exist side by side and make for a killer package. Perhaps the solution to the problem isn't to be less like Mega Man, but to go deeper down the rabbit hole and become more like him. As odd as it sounds, in its current state, 20xx's greatest setback is that it tries too hard to be like Mega Man X, but in the end, it has no personality of its own. With Capcom refusing to feed its starving Mega Man X fanbase, I suppose I should be taking my meals where I can get them. Though delicious in its own right, it doesn't sate my cravings. This video is made possible through generous fan donations on Patreon.